Hi, Jenna. Thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jenna. I'm a sophomore aerospace engineering major, and I'm very interested in space.
And what got you interested in this space?
Um, I mean, if I think back, it probably started in kindergarten whenever we first started learning about space, and it just kind of spiraled from there.
Do you remember any key event, a kindergarten teacher being overly enthusiastic about it, or maybe going to like some type of like the Johnson Space Center or something like that?
Yeah, Space Center Houston, I went in first grade, I think, with my family, and that probably started it as well.
And you're an aerospace engineer major. Uh, and how is that going? What do you think about aerospace engineering?
Um, I like it. I'm still in some of the more general engineering type classes so far, like statics and thermo, but I'm excited to get into the more rocketry based stuff.
And are you kind of excited to build actual like transportation things or more like habitation things that we might live in at some point?
Hopefully transportation, but I don't know. I'll see where I end up.
And so you probably knew about Artemis almost as soon as it was announced.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, mainly because the whole putting women on space thing, I don't know, for me, that's just really cool.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic too. I think it's important that we go um, very inclusive and that everybody feels like that there's space for them. I do also fear though that like the public's attention span is very narrow and finicky. Um, and I was wondering, well, I mean, first of all, would it surprise you that of like the random people I go up to at Starbucks and at the mall, about only 20% of them know that we're planning to go back to the moon?
Not really. People mainly just pay attention to the failures and the big stories. Other than that, don't get much attention. So, yeah.
Do you think that's a risk, a problem?
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that the space industry is growing, but it is kind of concerning that the general public doesn't know a ton about the things that are happening.
I wonder how many of them know about the four private citizens that are orbiting the Earth at this moment as we speak.
Yeah, the private space industry is completely wild to me, but we'll see where that ends up in a few years.
So I mean, kind of coming back to the previous point, I do you think there's a risk that if we overemphasize having like the first woman step on the moon, that the public could be kind of somewhat supportive of that initially, but then once it like happens, they would be like, "Well, you did it. Now we could shut the whole thing down."
I mean, that's sort of what happened with the moon landing originally, right? Like
Mhm.
the interest faded pretty fast. I don't know. I think things will keep going because of all the private sector stuff. Like if it was just a NASA thing, then it might be a little tough. But since places like SpaceX are mixed into things now, it's probably easier to keep things going.
And plus, it looks like China is really committed to developing resources in space. Space-based solar power, and they brought back the first samples from the moon since like the 1970s. And um, you know, I think a lot of people may not understand the benefits of exploring space and are really skeptical um, of maybe humanity branching out into the rest of the solar system, but they understand competition very, very much. Um, so What about if you were to go up to one of these random people that didn't know about Artemis and try to convince them it was a worthwhile thing? What would be your approach?
Um, well, for me, I think the main thing is just how many things for Earth improve when we go to space, because all of the technologies that need to be developed can transfer over here for the most part. Like there's a long list of spin-off technologies from NASA, and each of those, I mean, a lot of people could not imagine life without many of them.
Do you have any that come to the top of mind for you, like spinoffs that you think have been very impactful?
Nothing specific for me. I don't know. I haven't looked at the list in a while. I know like medical technology would not be where it is today without all of the spinoffs.
Um, but there are some people that kind of question, why go about it in a roundabout way? If your goal is like technology and you want to invent like medical devices, why not just focus on the medical devices itself? Or if you wanted to make a faster computer, why not just make the faster computer? Like, uh,
Mhm.
what's the what's the benefit of sort of doing this um, other activity, hoping to get spinoffs from it? I was just, how do you think about that?
Well, I mean, to me, the exciting thing is colonization. And when we look towards that, it's definitely going to improve things on Earth. Like, we're going to learn a lot how to not destroy a planet. But yeah,
Um, yeah, indeed. And I think one big benefit of exploration is you have to question every aspect of life, whereas you kind of sleepwalk, here on Earth, and you don't have to make conscious decisions and choices. You just do what everybody else is doing. So,
I mean, it also never hurts to have a backup plan. I mean, saving Earth is definitely a goal, but I mean, having other planets too would not hurt.
and just add the richness, cultural
Yeah.
richness of living life differently.
Hmm.
Of course, I think we have unrealistic visions of what it's like to wear a spacesuit for a long time.
True.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think most people would find it to be very disgusting after a while.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. All the layers and the different processes that go into it. I don't know the maximum length they can wear one, but yeah, for an extended period of time, I don't think that would be fun.
and also when you're in this environment and you have this big suit that's between you and the environment, I mean,
Hmm.
it's not like visiting a park where you can, you know, touch the plants and feel the wind on your face and hear the
Yeah.
sounds. Pretty much whenever we go visit the moon, it's going to be
Hmm.
purely a visual thing. I mean, like the astronaut has no and then I guess you have the feel of gravity being different. But I just wonder if maybe at some point we could actually put sensors on the outside of the suit and like using Neuralink or something, actually feed those senses directly into the astronaut so it feels like they
Yeah.
are the suit.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know.
Um, so how soon do you think you'll get to travel to space?
Wait, me?
Uh-huh.
Uh, I don't know. I feel like it'll be a while. Maybe, I mean, I feel like it could become more possible like 30 to 50 years from now for people who don't have millions of dollars lying around, but I don't know. We'll see.
Um, well, I just look at what SpaceX is doing with their Starship down there in Boca Chica, Texas. And it just seems to me that if they're even halfway successful with developing a fully reusable spacecraft that could be
Yeah.
reused multiple times. They're talking about up to 3 times a day. But even if it wasn't 3 times a day, it was like 3 times a week. I mean, it seems like that'd be so transformational from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, definitely.
And might really catch on, especially if you go from, say, Houston to Tokyo in 30 minutes. People would be like, whoa.
Yeah, that, I don't know. There's also the Hyperloop though. So there's that side of things.
That's true, but you got to build a lot of infrastructure between the points. Whereas, you kind of just build the launching and landing pad and make sure you could thread a path through all the tens of thousands of Starlink satellites and um, plan where you're going.
Yeah.
Uh, do you think at some point humanity will no longer be Earth-centric? That there will be pockets of humanity that Earth is just like some, far out place that they've heard about and maybe be cool to go to, but it's not really at the top of mind for them.
I mean, that would probably be a very, very long time from now, but I mean, as the sun gets bigger and closer, it's definitely possible.
And when you look for inspiration along your journey as an aerospace engineer, do you have particular sources that you look to, like people, authors, books, stories, anything like that?
Um, I mean, I read a lot of sci-fi, so I mean, I like mixing that into whatever I can, and I like the occasional nonfiction book about space because it's nice to see real people's stories and that they can actually get there.
Yeah, that it's not just all imagination. Um, well, that's a good question. What was your last sci-fi book you read?
Um, I think it was Project Hail Mary by the guy who wrote The Martian. I really like that one.
Yeah, I did too. Did you also read his book Artemis about the
Not yet. I want
uh,
to.
I really recommend the audiobook. I think the actress that performs that book adds a lot of stuff to it. So,
I'll
but
look into it.
that was kind of something going on about Twitter. Apparently, as one of the fans made a picture of what they thought Strat looked like from Project Hail Mary,
Oh,
and I was just wondering if you had any visions of that character from that book.
um, I don't know. I feel like I didn't come up with a clear image of what he looked like in my head, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking Strat probably looked like Edna from The Incredibles, the suit
Oh,
designer. So that's kind of what my what the
that's
vision I had.
definitely not my idea of him in my head, but
Not him, but her, the
oh,
lady running the project.
oh, you're talking about the lady running. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely him. He's not. He's more of
No,
easygoing high school professor that's interested in
yeah.
a high school teacher that's interested in just stuff. Um, and what was your last nonfiction book?
Uh, I don't know. I read a lot more fiction than nonfiction, so it's been a little while. But I read this one book by an aerospace engineer, and it was like his, I don't remember how many years, but it was about his whole life cycle through the aerospace industry.
Oh, that sounds neat.
Yeah.
Like kind of like how he got into it, his career,
Hmm.
his journey, and then I guess
Yeah.
retirement maybe. Hmm.
Yeah. Just the whole journey through it. I think they just updated it. So it ended with the 60 50th anniversary of the moon landing, but yeah.
Have you been down to Boca Chica, just out of curiosity?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's really, I've been there twice. I went for spring break. I was hoping to see SN13 take off, but it got delayed to the next week. I thought about staying, but that's the one that took off and landed in the fog, so I wouldn't have gotten to see it anyway.
Oh,
But it's amazing what they're doing down there. Whenever I see that, I'm like, I think we're a lot closer than anybody can imagine, actually, and to all these things.
mhm.
Okay, so I got a hypothetical situation for you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like 50 years, 100 years from now, some point in the future. Um, and there is a colony, in fact, multiple colonies, cities on Mars with,
Mhm.
everything that you can imagine, right? I mean, people are born on Mars and they have like their own little Martian Olympics and games and, all of human activity is there on Mars. They even have high schools, and these high schools, the students have to do projects. And one project that comes up occasionally is go off and do a research paper on what people thought of before the next time that we, the time that we went to the moon in 2024. And one of those students finds this video, and they're looking for some key insight to get them an A on their paper. What would you tell them to kind of help give them an A on their paper about this time?
I mean, I don't know. That's a hard question.
It is.
I don't know. Right now, we're living in a very Earth-centric, human-centric style, very individualized. Hopefully by then it's more of a group mindset, and hopefully everything went well. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine living in a colony growing up like that. Like, I've read the books and all, but yeah.
The interesting thing is this hypothetical Martian high schooler,
Mhm.
she probably can't imagine your life either. This idea of being able to go outside without a pressure suit and,
Mhm.
having like flowing water and, it's seasons that vary between uh, comfortable and uncomfortableness, but never between can't survive in.
Yeah.
you know and in fact, so imagine you're talking to this Martian student, and it's difficult to imagine their life, right? But Mars is probably not terraformed at this point. um they're probably still living in domes or underground tunnels, and every time they go out they have to put on their pressure suit. They always have to be in a pressure thing. The least little bitty thing is like instant death. you know I and they're very cautious. They actually prefer indoors to outdoors because indoors they have more freedom. This type of thing. But
Mhm.
can how would you describe your life, like your day-to-day existence, the things that would be different for you than the Martian?
I mean, I guess a lot of it's outside. Like, I have to walk 15 minutes between classes sometimes. It's kind of all over the place. I can't imagine not having it contained. I walk pretty much everywhere. That's my method of transportation, but I don't know what method of transportation is there, but cars are definitely a big deal around here, and buses, the bus system is huge on campus. Yeah.
I wonder what the food would be like on Mars, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Are they eating mush all the time? Like everything is like some variation of oatmeal and grits?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I have dorm food, so it's not perfect, but it's probably better than what they would have in a colony this like 100 years. I mean, they might develop better stuff over time, but at this point, I'm sure it would not be great.
Yeah. But I mean, I think people get used to whatever food they're brought up on.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, those Martians that were raised on Martian mush pro probably would have an affinity for it. They probably would have trouble. They're like, man, all your food's different. How do you? And their attitudes may be completely
Yeah.
unrelatable for us. It's like,
Hmm.
how about sports? I mean,
Oh.
they're probably not outside playing soccer, but
Hmm.
maybe they are. Maybe they have suited figures on a soccer field and they're running around, hitting a soccer ball over the Martian surface. Kind of curious.
Yeah, I don't know. When I designed a hypothetical Martian colony in high school, we had like a little central park in the center of it. I think it's like several towers that were connected by tubes. Yeah.
That sounds neat. So a place where people could actually feel grass on their feet
Yeah.
and did you do anything to like create weather type thing, like some type of system to like create occasional winds or to make the winds like cool or to change the humidity so they're like, oh my gosh, can't believe these people making a high humidity day.
That would be interesting, but we didn't get that far. I don't know.
Have you heard of a facility in Tucson, Arizona called Biosphere 2?
No, I haven't.
So at the end of the 1980s, they built this huge enclosure that it was completely materially closed, like it kept all the air in.
Hmm.
Um, and it had like a desert and it had like a forest and a swamp area and ocean. And they put 8 people in there for 2 years and they had to grow all their own food and everything. And it's supposed to be
Hmm.
like a completely um, its own biosphere type thing. That's what they had. It's kind of interesting. It'd be worth looking at. I think
Yeah.
if you get a chance to take a trip out there, but definitely worth a click or two on Google.
Hmm.
So, well, I really appreciate. Well, I guess one other question is, I was kind of presumptuous. If it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
I don't know. Maybe. It's like right now, it's very extra and not necessary, but maybe eventually. I don't know. I feel like it would be cool, and just seeing the world from a different perspective would be really awesome. But I don't know. We'll see whenever that happens.
But assuming you had the option, let's say, for example,
Mhm.
you had made a donation in St. Jude's in February, and Jared Isaacman calls you up and says, Jenna, you ready to go to space? Do you say no?
Like right now,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would probably say yes. I don't know. Would you?
Um, I would, but my wife said no. So
That's fair.
so she's like, after Elon goes, then maybe I'll consider it. But if he doesn't feel like it's safe enough for him to go.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Which is kind of interesting. Jeff Bezos was
Yeah.
on his first flight, his first human flight of his rocket. I think that added a lot of confidence to people. They're like, he wouldn't risk his life, so it must be safe.
Hmm.
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like SpaceX is probably the most viable for that type of travel. I mean, the other ones, they didn't go that far up, right?
Yeah, not at all. They just went above the atmosphere and came back down.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like SpaceX is going for the more legit commercial space travel when it comes to that. I don't know. We'll see where the other companies go, but
They're definitely SpaceX is definitely further along, you
yeah.
know. It's like I think earlier part this year, before they took a break for launching Starlink satellites, they
Mhm.
were launching some pretty much every other week. It's like
Yeah.
it's crazy,
Yeah.
but
The
it
launch
kind
times are crazy. Like I have this app with all of the live ones to click into, and I had notifications on for a little while and I had to turn it off because it's just there's so many launches, which is completely wild.
um so this is another question, and um well, okay, I just ask it. Um, so I think a lot of people in my generation were interested in space, but they were probably talked out of it to do things that were more realistic and reasonable. Space isn't a real career. It's finicky.
Mhm.
Why would you do that? I was just wondering what type of encouragement or discouragement you've received along your path towards becoming an aerospace engineer. Is it something that you felt um, fairly consistently supported in, or have you actually come across some people that are like, hey, Jenna, aerospace, NASA, where's the future? I mean, what's been your experience?
Well, I mean, when I was in kindergarten and wanted to be an astronaut, my mom was definitely like, that's very risky. Please don't leave me for that long. But I decided I wanted to do aerospace in seventh grade, and I don't think anyone's ever said anything bad about it. When I say my major, people are maybe a little too impressed. Like they think it's very crazy and interesting. I don't know. I just do some math.
Well, your mom's reaction is kind of, my interpretation of that is she was afraid that you would succeed at becoming an astronaut. She's like, it'd be scary.
You
Uh,
froze.
oh, I froze. Am I? Hmm. Are we still? We're connected? Oh.
Yeah, you froze for a while there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I was just saying that it felt like your mom's reaction was in an odd way kind of supportive, because she wasn't like, oh, Jenna, it's very competitive. I don't think you'll make it. She's like, I know you'll make it, and it's scary. So
Yeah, it's I don't know, the one way trip to Mars thing. Those things are very scary. I think I don't remember which company it was, but one of the ladies that was a top candidate for the one where they ship you off to Mars forever. She came and talked to my Mars club in high school, and I couldn't imagine making a decision like that, but it's just cool. It's cool to hear about.
I think those people should spend a couple of years like living in a mountain camp or in Antarctica and see if they're still enthusiastic about it afterwards.
Mhm.
Yeah, that Mars one was the company you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, the lot of kind of criticisms about how legitimate they were, but um, it's interesting. Apparently, thousands of people are like, "Hey, sign me up." And
Mhm.
I wonder, after these COVID lockdowns where they're like stuck in their apartment or home for months on end, if you
Yeah.
went to them and said, the trip to Mars is going to be even worse than that. You still want to go? I wonder what the response would be.
Oh yeah, COVID definitely adds a whole new perspective to being alone like that. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, except imagine doing that inside of a minivan, for
Yeah.
months at a time. Oh, and by the way, uh, the the toilet's in the minivan, or something like that, right next to your cooking stove. It's kind of yeah.
Yeah. crazy to think that that's where we are in the timeline of space travel now.
Absolutely. Oh, you know, Firefly Aerospace is really close to where you are. Have you been
Mhm.
able to go there?
No, I haven't. I'm going to apply to some of their things, but everything they're doing seems really cool. I don't know.
Did you watch their first attempt at orbit?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, they had an engine failure,
Mm,
and then after it went supersonic, they weren't able to control the rocket because they had lost. Interestingly enough, you know, a lot of a lot of rockets are designed so that the engines can gimbal in all 360-degree directions, but
yeah,
their rocket Fireflies, apparently they have four engines, one at each of the sides, and they can only gimbal you know, in a particular direction, you know, like along one line. So if you lose like one engine, you really lose a lot of the ability to control the
yeah,
direction of the rocket. And after it had gone supersonic, apparently the amount of control they had wasn't enough to offset the forces. And then it did a
mm,
flip, and then they did the destruction. You know, they pressed the button, I guess, is the
yeah.
euphemism. So yeah. So well, Jenna, I really appreciate your time and helping me with my project. I'm have 1,198 more people to interview.
Oh,
So if you have friends or people you know that would participate, hopefully you'll send them my direction.
yeah, definitely.
Before we close it, did you have any thing you want to add or any questions for me?
Um, no, I think your project's really cool. I'm definitely gonna look at some of the other videos sometime.
Sounds sounds good. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day. And again, thank you so much for um, you know, helping to document this very interesting moment in human history.
Yeah, I'm glad I could be a part of it.
Okay, take care.
You too.